Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi fi kulli lahzatin abada ala ni'amillahi wa afdalihi. Allahumma atina min ladunka rahmah wa alimna min ladunka ilma. Subhanaka hatha ala tamassuki bi kitabillahi wa sunnati rasulihi sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني مشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني مشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. أمين 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 يا رب العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. Actually, I want to ask, do you all have any questions from yesterday's class? Do you have any questions from yesterday's class at all? If there are no questions, any questions at all from yesterday's class? So basically, for your class, the weekend I will have to do the recordings. The second lesson today will be a recording. I have already recorded it. So inshallah, you just I will give it's I will upload it inshallah onto the YouTube, right, inshallah. Okay, any questions from yesterday's class? No questions from yesterday's class. Okay. Come Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن كره منها خلقا رضي منها آخر أو قال غيره. رواه Muslim. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu reported to have said, reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, a believer must not hate a believing woman. If he dislikes one of her characteristics, he will be pleased with another. MashaAllah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of this hadith. We'll read the salawat first. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك حبيب الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك وذكر الغافلون. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك حبيب الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكر وغفل عن ذكرك وذكر الغافلون. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك حبيب الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره الذاكر وغفل عن ذكرك وذكر الغافلون. ما شاء الله. So we're going to go into Sayyidina Abu Hurairah first, right? The Sahabi Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, and a bit about his life. So every time we come to a hadith, and I know this is the second half for all of you here in Kutub al-Falihin, right? And probably in the last year, the lessons last year that you went through some of the tarjama of the rawi, companion, right, who narrates the hadith, right? But inshallah, we will go through it again, right? So I will go through it again, right, with this class as this class, inshallah, as a reminder for us of who are these people, right? So Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, his name is Abdurrahman bin Sakhr, right? And he was said that his name before Islam was Abdul Shams, right? And when he entered into Islam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam named him Abdurrahman. He is from the Daws tribe. The leader of his tribe is a story about the tribe, of the Daws. The leader of his tribe is Sayyidina Tufail. Sayyidina Tufail radiallahu ta'ala anhu had called the tribe to Islam. So Sayyidina Tufail, he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He declared his Islam to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he went back to his people. He was the leader of his people, and he went back to his people and he called them to Islam. However, they refused to listen to him, and they refused Islam. Right. So he went back to Medina. to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, "Ya Rasulullah, make dua against the Daws. I make dua against the Daws. The Daws has disobeyed and they have refused." And he was upset with them because he was actually their leader, and they refused him. Right, so he was actually very upset with them, right, for doing that. Right, so he says to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ya Rasulullah, make dua against Daws. I make dua against Daws, right? Because Daws has refused. Basically Daws has refused." Right. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he made his dua and he said, "Oh Allah, guide the tribe of Daws and bring them." And mashallah, by his dua, the entire tribe entered into Islam. It was said that Sayyidina Abu Huraira was actually of the very few to come into Islam before, the leader complained about them. So when leader had called them to Islam, there were very few who entered into Islam. And Sayyidina Abu Huraira was one of them, who entered into Islam. Sayyidina Abu Huraira was given the kunya, the kunya meaning like a nickname, whereby he's the father of so and so. And he was given the kunya of Abu Huraira, right, because it was said that he once kept a kitten in his sleeve. And there are many stories about how his name came about, right? So it was said that there was once when he was rearing some sheep in his own hometown, he found like kittens. He found kittens basically, and he put them in his sleeve, and he went back home, and his family saw him with his kittens in his sleeve, and they asked him, why are you having kittens in your sleeve? And then from then on, he was called Abu Huraira. Or it was said in the narration that it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who saw him carrying a kitten in his sleeve. And just it's interesting, like why I always try and imagine how they put a kitten in their sleeve, right? But mashallah, I'm imagining a small kitten, probably a small kitten, and you put it in like a loose sleeve, and then you like kind of like a hammock for the kitten. But basically, he was doing that. In the Abu Hurairah, he was doing that. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him Abu Hir. There's a narration of him saying Abu Hir, or Abu Hurairah. Hurairah is kitten, Hirra is cat. Right, so he came into Islam the year of the conquest of Khaybar, and he is he is by far the most, amongst the companions, the most, he narrated the most hadith, amongst the companions by far, right? And he narrated 5,374 hadith. Whereas the other companions, those who will be like after him, right, they would not go beyond 2,000 or 3,000 hadith. Right? So by far, he narrated more hadith. So this brings us to the next question. What was his secret in being that very one companion to narrate so many hadith on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So here, there are a few points, actually 4 points, that was listed out, as to what was the secret of Abu Huraira and his hadith narration. So the first one is that he kept the close company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the first one. He kept the close company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it wasn't saying Abu Huraira, he was a homeless person. He's a homeless man, and mashallah, and alhamdulillah, it is part of hadith, knowledge, or hadith, the science of hadith, that we actually study the companions, and in fact we should study the people who narrate all these hadith, right? But at least the companions we study them, right? So that we know what they're about, and we know the credibility behind these people, and or the credibility of these people, right? And we also know their dedication, right, to the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Because the entire science of hadith is a very, you would say, is a very rigorous science, right, to ensure that what enters into the science is what is true and correct, right, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Abu Huraira, he was one of the people of Sufa, Ahlul Sufa. Right, so he was of the Ahlul Sufa. Right, the Ahlul Sufa is basically the people of the bench. Right, this bench in the mosque of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is still there till today. Right, if you were to go to the masjid, the Rawda of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you look to your left, right, you would see, so if you're facing the mimbar, if you look to your left, right, you would see the bench, right. They've now blocked it from anyone entering into it, right, but you can see the bench. Okay, this bench is basically a place whereby the poor used to stay, right? It's not a bench, but it's an elevated platform, right? It's like a stage, like an elevated platform. It was a place whereby the poor used to stay, right? So it was that people would come to Medina, and they would come with nothing. right, to Medina, and they would declare their Islam to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then they would decide to stay on in Medina, and when they stayed on in Medina, they had nothing lah, basically, right? They're homeless. And they will stay on in the masjid of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam will place it upon himself to feed the Ahlul Sufa. Right? He would support them. Right? He would support them, mashallah. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And this is from a famous hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right, whereby we see that Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Right, whereby we see that he, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or when Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, asked for a slave or for a helper, a servant, he said that he will not give her a servant, but rather he would sell, right, the slaves that they got from war and use the money to feed the Ahlul Sufa. That was one of the narrations whereby he said he would not give her a helper and leave the Ahlul Sufa hungry, but rather he would sell the slaves and use the money to feed the Ahlul Sufa. So why he turned her down with a request for a servant. Right? MashaAllah. So Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, he was one of the Ahlul Sufa. There were about 70 of them. And because of him being homeless, and also you can say pretty much jobless, they were these people, he was able to stay in the masjid the entire time. So unlike the other companions that had to go to work, right, they had their own farms, they had their own businesses, their own shops. So they would go to the masjid for the morning prayer, then they would leave and they'll get along with their day, working for their sustenance. And then they would come for Zuhur, and then they would go back to their families. Then they would come for Asar, and then they might stay for Maghrib and Isha, right? So, but for Abu Huraira being homeless, he was there the entire day, right? He was just there the entire day, and he kept the close company of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and that was why he was able to hear a lot of the narrations of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So once the Prophet ﷺ said, so the second reason as to why he is the foremost in hadith narration, like, is that once the Prophet ﷺ said, which of you would spread out his garment so as to take from these words of mine, then collect them in his chest, meaning memorize them, for surely he would not forget a single thing that he has heard, right, or that he heard. Right, so mashallah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said this. Right, so Sayyidina Abu Huraira was there. So again, being homeless, he's always there. Right. So when he heard what Rasulullah had said, he said, so I spread out my cloak that was on me. He had a burda on him. I spread out my cloak that was on me until he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, finished speaking. Right, so he put out his cloak, in front of him, and the words of Rasulullah entered into his cloak. Whatever that means, it fell onto his cloak. Right, and he finished speaking. It is from the mu'jiza of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's from the miracles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so until he finished speaking, and then I gathered my cloak to my chest and never forgot a single thing after that day. So it was from a dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for him, right? And he never forgot the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Huraira also narrated, so it's all from him telling us how come he could narrate so many hadiths, right? What was his secret, right? So he narrated that he said, "Oh, Ya Rasulullah, indeed, I hear many hadiths from you and I forget them." MashaAllah, he commented about his weak memory. And Rasulullah said, spread out your upper garment. And he had a rida on him. This time was a rida. A rida is basically like a rectangular piece of cloth that you would see this when people wear ihram. When they wear the ihram, they have this rectangular piece of cloth on their upper body. Right, that's called a rida. Right, so I spread it, and he scooped with his hands as if there was something in his hands. He scooped with his hands, and he said, "Gather it together." And so I gathered it together, and I never forgot anything after that. MashaAllah. Right, it was that there were other companions who also memorized from Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but like for example, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, right, he refrained from narrating many hadiths, right, out of his fear of saying something that was inaccurate. Right, so it was that Sayyidina Abu Bakr he had a whole collection of hadiths in his house that he had written down. But when he heard Rasulullah SAW say that, the one who has lied against me, then let him reserve for himself a place in the fire. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr got so frightened that he went home and he burnt his collection. Subhanallah. And he got so frightened. But mashallah, Sayyidina Abu Huraira, Allah gave him the ability to never forget what he had heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it was this verse that pushed him, right, to spreading a hadith. right? And it was a verse in Surah Baqarah whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, uh, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. All right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and for those who hide what Allah has sent down of clear proofs and guidance from after it has been made clear to the people in the book, then these are the people whom Allah has cursed, and and those who curse will curse them. Right. So this verse was actually referring to the people of the book, whereby they hid the what was in their Torah and the Injil on the traits of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah was addressing them. But Sayyidina Abu Huraira saw this to apply to himself, right? And therefore, from this verse, he himself said that he did not conceal, of the hadith that is to be told, right, to the people. So he passed away in Al Medina in the year 59 after Hijrah when he was 78 years old, and he was buried in Al Baqi'. He used to dua, "Oh Allah, do not let me see the 60th year of Hijrah." Right? And Allahu Alam why he made a dua, but we know that after the 60th year, a lot of the fitna began to happen among the Sahaba. And Sayyidina Abu Huraira probably had gotten the knowledge from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that after the 60th year of the Hijrah, right, things will get really, there'll be a lot of trouble, right, amongst the Muslims. And therefore, Sayyidina Abu Huraira, he used to make dua to not see the 60th year after Hijrah, and therefore he passed away in the 59th year after Hijrah, mashallah. May Allah be pleased with him, and may Allah reward him greatly on our behalf. All right, so the hadith explanation the hadith that we are taking in this explanation, right? The word believer in this hadith is general. The word mu'min. So if you go back to the hadith here, right? La yafraq mu'minun mu'minatan, right? Mu'minun mu'minatan, right? So mu'minun would be a believer, as any believer, right? And mu'minatan would be any female believer, right? So of course there is an understanding of husband and wife, but it does not limit to that. Right? It does not limit to that. So it could be any man and any woman, and it could be any person to any person, right? So don't dislike believers, right? It is impermissible, right, for us to for a believer to dislike a believer. And this hadith is a hadith of akhlaq, right? It's a hadith of character, good character, right? Whereby when you look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you see how he has embraced all believers, mashallah, and however they are, he has embraced them. Then we look at ourselves and we reflect on ourselves. How is it that we can, as believers, we dislike people? How is it that we can even dislike people? Right? Especially those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen for them to have La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah in their hearts. Right? So how can we dislike them when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them of the greatest gifts, which is the gift of Iman, mashallah. And this is, as mentioned, this is hadith, the hadith of good character, because it is from good character to not dislike people. Right? It is from good character to not dislike people. And is a reminder for myself first and foremost, and for all of us here, right, to always check yourself. So if there are people out there that you just you just can't stand or you dislike them, right, then scold yourself and reprimand yourself why. Right? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam give us a way out of this, a solution for this, whereby he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you don't like something of her, right, and this is under the chapter of treatment of wives and the rights of each, right? So it is speaking about wife and husband, right, but it can be extended. So if any person around you, if you don't like them, right, if you don't like a trait of theirs, then look for traits that are likable. Right? Because everybody, right, everybody has good traits and they have bad traits. Right. So you can't possibly say, oh no, she's just she's just dislikable all the way around. It's not possible, right? It's not possible for someone to be completely, dislikable all the way around. Right? Everyone has their good traits and everyone has their bad traits, right? So if you're disliking someone, there's probably something about their bad traits that is really getting to you, right? So tell yourself, look at their good traits, look at their good traits, and make yourself like them, right, by their good traits, mashallah. And that is from the akhlaq of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he is always gracious, he's always warm, like to the people around him. And it's something that is so, mashallah, so beautiful about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also it is on us to emulate, right? To love everyone that you see and that you come across. Okay, this hadith has a specific indication of towards husband and wife. Right? Because right, husband and wife situation, they live with each other, they're from different backgrounds, different families, they come together and they live together, right? This is the situation of the husband and the wife, right? So Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, right? So with regards to husband and wife, right? Because they live so closely in contact with each other, right? They see each other's faults, they see each other's flaws. And it is said that for the wali, right, the people who are usually blind to the wali are the family members themselves, because the family member sees the humanness and all the flaws and the faults of the wali, right, where the other people don't see, right? So it becomes a test on them and a trial on them, right? So when you live with someone else, obviously you begin to see all of their problems and all of their issues and their habits and so on, right? So and you begin to and you can begin to dislike them because of their habits, that they have, and understand that they have habits and you have habits, right? You have, right? They have flaws and you have flaws. We all have flaws, right? We're all flawed individuals. We're all flawed people. We're not prophets, right? So as much as we would like for people to overlook our flaws and to focus on what is and to focus on what is good of us that they can find about ourselves, right? We should do the same for other people, right? We should do the same for other people, that as we see their flaws and we dislike it, right? We should say to ourselves, you know what, you want people to see your good side, so you should look at other people's good sides, inshallah. Right. So the word believer here in this hadith is general, and so this opens up the advice to all, not just between spouses. This hadith could be a statement or a prohibition. Right. So it could be a statement or a prohibition. However, it is a prohibition. It's not a statement. So let me just explain this, right? So if you look at the hadith, right, it could mean, right. So the translation is actually off. Let me change the translation. Okay. Um, okay lah, must not lah, or should not. It's a commandment. It's a commandment. Right? So la yafrak. Right. So the sukun there tells us commandment. It's a law of don't. Right? Don't. A believer should not. Right? So don't. Right? As believers, don't hit a believing woman. If he dislikes one of her characteristics, he will be pleased with another. Right? So it's actually a commandment. It's not a statement. Right? A statement will be a believer does not dislike another believer. That will be a statement. A believer does not dislike another believer. That will be a statement, right? So it's not actually a statement; it's a prohibition, right? So Rasulullah SAW is not saying something like a matter of fact, right? But he is commanding. He is commanding, right? Or he is prohibiting, right? So Qadi al-Iyad, he was the one who said that it was a statement. That means a believer does not go around disliking people, right? But all the other scholars disagree with him, saying that from the wording of the hadith, it is a prohibition. It's not a statement, right? So a believer should know that nobody is perfect, right? So a believer, when you see the flaws of another person, to remind yourself, right? To remind yourself that this person is a human being and you are also human beings, right? Tell yourself that you have eyes and they have eyes. Everybody has eyes and everybody can see the flaws of other people, right? Everyone has faults and everybody can see that, and your faults can be obvious towards other people, right? And so as much as you don't like that other people see your flaws, you should not be focusing on the flaws of others. Imam An-Nawawi differed, right? So he was one of those who differed, right? Saying that it's not a statement but it's a prohibition, meaning the Prophet ﷺ is prohibiting the act of disliking others by pointing out everyone has strengths and everyone has flaws, right? Everyone has strengths and everyone has flaws. This is more correct by the grammar of the hadith. As I mentioned just now, there was a sukun on the word. Right, so no believer should completely hate another believer because all are the creation, they all are the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah has placed the shahada in their hearts. The shahada is iman, and Allah only gives iman to those whom He loves. If Allah has given this person iman, and placed shahada in their hearts, then who are you to dislike them when Allah has shown His love for them by giving them iman? Right, so you have no right, to dislike them. Um, uh, uh, for as long we have no right to dislike them, right? And especially when you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored them by placing the shahada in their hearts. So this is actually, good character. It's hadith speaks about good character of not disliking people. It is of bad character to dislike people. And it's also relationship advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to always see goodness in people. Right? So especially between husband and wife, if you are angry with him or upset with him or he is upset with you about something about you, then remember, right? Remember that they have good deeds too, right? They have goodness too. Right, so it's a very sound, it is very sound relationship advice. It is something about them that you don't like. There are other things about them that you like, right? So focus on that. Right, so focus on that. So if anyone's like going through a really difficult patch in their in any form of relationship, right? So between husband and wife, between siblings, between friends, between parent and child, right? So if there are traits that you don't like about the other person, always remember this hadith and look for the traits that you like, right, about this person. Right, different genders are mentioned in this hadith specifically because it is a common situation between spouses and the opposite gender, right? So it is a common situation between spouses whereby they dislike the habits of their spouse, right? Or of opposite genders, which might happen, right? You dislike someone, in your class or in your workplace or whatever, right? And Allahu A'lam whether it's usually someone of the same gender or different gender, but basically the principle stands, right? The principle stands that if you dislike something about them, there are things about them that you will like, all right? So the story of Sayyidina Hafsa bint Sayyidina Umar رضي الله عنها ورضي الله تعالى عنه أيضا is that Sayyidina Hafsa, she there was a point in her marriage with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually divorced her. There was a point in their marriage whereby he actually divorced her. There was something that she did lah, basically. Right, so he was upset with her and he divorced her, or he left her. Right, so there are different narrations whether he actually divorced her or he kind of separated from her. And Sayyidina Jibreel came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said to him, Ya Rasulullah, Allah says to take her back. Right? Allah says to take her back. فَإِنَّهَا قَوَّامَةٌ صَوَّامَةٌ. MashaAllah. Right? Jibreel said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, Allah says to take her back. And you can only imagine how Sayyidina Hafsa must have felt, that she did something, really, really, that really, really upset the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that got her to be separated, from him. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciated of her and her deeds. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take her back because innaha qawwama sawama. Right? Innaha qawwama sawama, meaning that she is one who stands in prayer and she fasts. Right? She stands in prayer in abundance, right? Qawwama. Right? In abundance she would pray. And wasawama. And in abundance she will fast. Right? So was her own deeds, her own private deeds for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that in that itself is a trait. Right? She has a trait about her. She has a trait about her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees. And Allah sees our traits. Allah sees our good traits as much as He sees our flaws, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is Ar-Rahman, He is Ar-Rahim, He is Al-Latif, He is Al-Ghafur, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He sees our traits, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He sees of what we try to do for Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincerely for Him. And He sees of where we fall short, and we fall short so much, mashallah. We fall short so much, to the point that we can't even face how much we fall short in our character, in our deeds, in what we do. But Allah Ash-Shakur, Right? Allah is Ash-Shakur, Allah is the one who appreciates. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take her back, right, on on account that she stands in prayer and she fasts. And that is a good enough trait, right, for you to keep her by your side. She is someone of worship, right? She's someone of ibadah, keep her by your side. And therefore Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took her back. Mashallah, right? And here we see the lesson, right, for us to learn from. I always look at the goodness in people. And there is a story of Nabi Isa alayhi salam and a dead dog. Right? There's a story whereby there was once Nabi Isa alayhi salam was walking, and Nabi Isa, he was known to be someone who would always see the goodness in others. He would always see what is beautiful, right, in others. And that is a trait of a believer. So there was once Nabi Isa alayhi salam was with his companions, the Hawariyun, and they walked past a dead dog. And the Hawariyun, they were like, oh, disgusting, it's so smelly, it's ugly, it's this, is that. They were saying all kinds of things about this dead dog. And then Nabi Isa just looked at it and he said, oh, how white its teeth are. MashaAllah. Like how white its teeth are, MashaAllah. In him saying that, MashaAllah. And seeing that goodness, right? Seeing the goodness in the dead dog, MashaAllah. Right. So Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Right. So the learning points of this hadith: living well with others, especially one's spouse, to be wary of hating and sowing hatred in your heart and the heart of others. Right. Be very wary. Be very wary. Shaitan tries his best to make you dislike and to make you hate. Right? He tries his best to make you dislike others and make you hate others. So be very wary of that. Right? To always honor the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be fair to others and look for their good traits. Right? To be fair to others and to always look for their good traits. To honor the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to like them, right? To like Allah's creation, right? So to whoever you see around you, right, from today onwards, we're going to put in our intention that I will like, not as love, but love is easy. Because I think love is easy, right? But liking, liking people's traits and character, right? I have an issue myself, right, in this area, but to like it, right, to like them, right, to see the goodness in people all the time, right, to be fair to others as how you like them to be fair to you, to always look for their good traits, to know people are not perfect and neither are you, right? And so as much as you don't want them to hold you to your traits, you should not hold people, right, against themselves. A believer should always see the good traits of others more than their bad traits, inshallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. So this is the last statement. You should always see the good traits of others more than their bad traits. I'm going to do another hadith. I'm supposed to do 4 hadiths a lesson. I just did one today. So I'm going to do another hadith. Try and just get one more in, inshallah. I'm going to start to rush through the hadiths from now on. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right, so now we're going to a different chapter. Recommendations with regard to women. Babul wasiyah bin nisa. حديث 62 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أكمل المؤمنين إيمانا أحسنهم خلقا وخياركم خياركم لنسائكم رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن صحيح. Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the believers are those who show the most perfect faith, right? They are they are those who show the most perfect faith, and the believers who show the most perfect faith of one, right, are those who have the best character. Ahsanuhum khuluqa. Right, so all this hadith has to do with character. Right? How you treat other people, your treatment of other people has to do with your character, right? Your behavior. So the best one with the best of you with the best behavior is the best one to their wives. Mashallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. Just here. اللهم صل أفضل صلواتك على أسعد مخلوقاتك حبيب الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك وذكره ذاكرون وغفل عن ذكرك غافلون. Just wait once. Okay. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. نعم. Right. Here. Right. Right. So the most perfect, of believers are those with good character. right? So أكمل المؤمنين إيمانا أحسنهم خلقا, right? The best of them in character. And the one and what weighs heaviest on the scale on the day of judgment is good character. And as Rasulullah has said in a hadith that someone of good character, right, would reach even beyond the levels of those who fast and pray. Right? Whereas good character is something that is heavy and it is precious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world and the hereafter. And character is seen in a person, especially with their spouses, right? Because it is with their spouse that they're with them every single day. And therefore, your bad character shows with your spouse. And your spouse sees all your terrible side, right? Your morning face and your moodiness and your sometimes your rudeness and so on. Your spouse is the one who actually sees everything that no one else sees. That even it could be your own parents don't even see it, but your spouse sees it. Subhanallah. So which is why a testimony to someone's good character is someone being having good character towards their own spouses. So understanding good character, Sayyidina Al-Hasan al-Basri said, the reality of good character is to spend what is good for others, to restrict harming them, and to have a pleasant face. So what is the definition of good character? It is to spend, right, what is good for others, right? To spend on what is good for others, uh, uh, to spend of your wealth and of yourself, right? What is good for others, to restrict harming them, um, so not to harm them and to have a pleasant face when facing them. So not to harm people in with your words or your actions and to have a pleasant face when facing them. Imam Ahmad said, good character is to not get angry or agitated. That means annoyed. This is also another advice for myself. Right? To not get annoyed easily, right? Or agitated by people and not to get angry. He also said good character is to bear with whatever you receive from people. This is just to bear and to stand by it, mashallah. And then to treat them in the best way, mashallah. Great character, mashallah. May Allah grant us good character, inshallah. It is a mountain, right? This is why it is above fasting and praying. Anyone can fast and pray, but not everyone can control themselves, right, when they are facing bad character. Right? Some people of knowledge have said good character is to suppress rage for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to show happiness and pleasantness, except to innovators, right? Those who innovate in the religion, but to show happiness and pleasantness with everyone, and transgressors, so not to show it to transgressors as well, right? So basically, it is to stop them from their sin, right? To overlook those who slip when they make mistakes, except when wanting discipline or establish the penalty on them, and to restrict harm on every Muslim, and to be peaceful towards, and to restrict harm on every Muslim, and to restrict harm on the peaceful non-Muslim. So not to hold them, to account with regards to this, except in wanting to change a transgression or to return the rights of the oppressed, and to do so without going over bounds. Right? So basically, to treat everyone gently and fairly and in the best manner. So good character is to show those you frequent and those who you're always with a pleasant face. It means especially your family, and to always show them a pleasant face. Gentleness, compassion, patience on teaching them, and to love the young and old. As the Prophet ﷺ has said, he is not of us, those who does not honor our old and does not have mercy on our young. Right? So all of this will be under good character. To have compassion, patience on teaching them, and to love the young and old. All right. So here comes a question: is good character natural or developed? Let me just. All right. Is good character natural or is it developed? So the answer is both. Right? The answer is both basically. Right? From this hadith, we see that it is from the perfection of someone's iman, right? A good character, which means that you can strive for it, right? And you should be striving for it, right? So it is both. Right? Of good character, it is what is given to you, right, naturally, and is what you strive for, right? So some of our character is natural, right, in a person. Sometimes some people are just more naturally, like, positive, or friendly. Some people, they have a bit more work to do in that area. So we see that is both, right? So some character is natural, and the ability to develop and to fight the person's natural character is definitely possible, right? So you can fight, right, what is not good of your character. You can fight it, and you can develop what is good of your character. It is possible, and that is why it is rewardable. Because if it's something you can't work on, why would it be rewarded and why would it be punished, right? So it is something that definitely we can work on. I said this is why you have reward for it, and there is also punishment when it is bad character. And that a person will have be held account on his character on the day of judgment. So again, right, because you be held account, it means that you can actually work on it. And in the hadith, Rasulullah SAW said, indeed, gentleness is by striving to be gentle. Right? Al-hilm bitahallum. Right, is the hadith, eh? Al-hilm bitahallum. Right? Gentleness is by striving to be gentle. So you're gonna force yourself, right, on good character until it becomes part of you. This hadith speaks about the best deed, and it's known that the Prophet ﷺ would give different answers to different people depending on what was more urgent at the moment and the state of the questioner. So there are other questions about the best deeds, and sometimes he would say jihad fi sabilillah, sometimes he would say prayer at our waqts, right, at the beginning of his time. He'll give different answers to different people. So this specific question, it was being addressed to husbands, right, for them to be good to their spouses. So there's emphasis on being good to women, right, especially on their towards their spouses. As in that culture, it was commonplace for them to be abusive, right? Not commonplace, but it was something that would happen, right, in the homes whereby they would be abusive, or they would make use of their spouses, right? So Rasulullah would say, the best of you are the best to your spouses, and I am the best to my spouses. Right. The clear sign of character is how one is with their family, especially their spouse. As you mentioned, is where all your secrets come out with your family. And in the hadith, Rasulullah SAW said, indeed, a believer will reach by good character the level of those who fast and pray. And the heaviest thing on the scale on the day of judgment is good character. And the one with good character is the closest to the Prophet ﷺ on the day of judgment. These are all for us to strive to have good character, right? And already from a definition of good character, we know how we're supposed to strive to have good character. And the one with good character is the one who has a house in the highest parts of paradise. From a longer hadith, right, about those who leave argumentation, right, and for them houses in paradise. And the hadith ends by saying the one with good character is the one with the highest house in has a house in the highest parts of paradise. So I'm going to finish our class for today. The learning points for today: first and foremost, the great position of good character in the view of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, to treat women well and pay attention to their needs. Number three, a person of good character reaches the level of those who worship but do not have good character, and even higher. They can even go higher than that. Right, so inshallah. Okay, inshallah, we will stop here for today, inshallah. And the next lesson later on, after I think the last period for today, we will go on from Hadith 63. Right, inshallah, it will be a recorded class, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. الفاتحة أن الله يرزقنا منافعنا وعملا خالصا مسلم ودلال الهدى ويصر بقبل النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأرواح معاني من مشايخنا وذوي الحقوق علينا وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.